Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War. It is March of 1942 in our playthrough as the Axis. We have just taken the city of Brunei in the Pacific. We are pushing, hopefully, on Chongqing inevitably, and also Sian in China with the goal of knocking China out of the war. Meanwhile, we're struggling on the Malay Peninsula. We haven't been able to break through that first defensive position for the Allies to drive on Singapore, so we're way behind schedule there. We don't have naval forces in the area to deal with the Dutch fleet. We're racing them back from Pearl Harbor, but they're still kind of far away. And we haven't taken Guam yet because the Americans packed it so full of fighters that we couldn't land any troops there, and we actually lost a landing craft off the coast. So the Pacific is a little bit mixed. Some good results, some not so great results. And that's the situation right now. We just knocked the Philippines out of the war, although the Americans are still holding out in Corregidor. And that's the situation in Asia. In Russia, we've just taken Smolensk last turn. We'll see if the Soviets try and counterattack it. And we're trying to hopefully get our forces in position for a counter or a new offensive here in about 2 months' time. Probably not this turn, but my guess is the next turn is when we'd want to launch that offensive. I need to do some reinforcing, some shoring up of our positions. And I also need to allow the ground to thaw and harden. Right now it's all still snow. Next turn it'll probably turn to mud, and then we should have hard, good ground by May of 42. Or at least that's the situation right now. But the Soviets are massing troops all along our border, so there's obviously a very real risk there that they may launch their own offensive. So things are a little bit precarious, but we'll see how this plays out. North Africa, meanwhile, speaking of precarious, we just lost the Italian army here south of Murcia, however you pronounce that. We haven't been able to break through the defenses near Al Alamein. The British have sent some recon cars to try and flank us here in the south, and that's currently the situation down there. Meanwhile, in the battle at sea, we've got 2 Italian warships that are trying to escape into the Atlantic, and I don't know if they're going to take damage going by Gibraltar or not, but if they're able to get to the Atlantic, they'll be able to reinforce a war of attrition against the British Navy here. We just knocked a carrier out last turn. We badly damaged a heavy cruiser with our submarines, but our own subs are taking a bit of a beating, and our surface fleet is basically wasting away to nothing. We've got 2 badly damaged battleships, and we've got the Graf Spee, who was a badly mauled air wing, but did successfully assist in destroying that British aircraft carrier. Anyway, guys, that's that, and I think we're actually ready for the next turn. So let's go ahead and see what the Allies are up to. The capture of Smolensk boosts Axis morale. Soviet national morale falls as Smolensk falls. Brunei surrenders. Japan plunders 12 MPPs. If you would like our ships to continue sailing through the Gibraltar to the Atlantic. The event represents the ability the Axis had to slip small numbers of ships through the Gibraltar Strait. However, sending units through the strait is not without risk and may end their turn adjacent to Gibraltar, making them vulnerable to enemy attack. Yes. Italian naval units pass through the strait to the Atlantic. Partisan activity in China. Manchuria. Okay. British commander raids Ostend. So they're doing some economic damage. Meanwhile, Allied raiders are disrupting Japanese convoys in Manchukuo and also to Thailand. And that's the situation right now. Okay. We'll see what the Allies have in store. It's a rainy Mediterranean down there. Soviet units are liberating Kerch. British are pulling some units out here. Some other naval units. The Italians are doing some, or the Chinese are doing some strategic redeployments. The Soviets in the south seem to be on primarily a defensive posture. Hopefully the rain clears in China so we can use our air force. We upgraded the majority of our forces in China last turn. I'd like some localized attacks in the south, maybe to destroy isolated Russian units. I feel like it's very important to keep the pressure up on Russia because they do have a very large income. They've got over 600 MPPs in income, so we need to make sure that we're draining their resources and forcing them to continually reinforce and sort of spend money not getting stronger. Ah, we lost a sub there. Okay. British sure do have a lot of freaking destroyers. Americans, too. Oh my god, the Battle of the Atlantic is not going well. At least keep a couple sub. Oh, fuck. The Royal Navy sent a carrier to the Pacific. That's a problem. You know, this game is really well suited, I think, to the land campaigns in Europe. But I'm not so sure it's all that well suited to the campaigns against the Pacific. I don't know how well this engine really... It feels a little bit iffy in terms of the engine's ability to represent combat in the Pacific. The mechanics just feel a little kludgy. I mean, that's my perception. I reserve the right to be wrong. British just moved an army west of El Alamein. That's intriguing. Why are there British troops in China? Oh, fuck. If the British are going to deploy troops to China, that's going to make things complicated. Meanwhile, Russian counterattack on Smolensk, at least for that army, was beaten back without too much loss. Actually, we didn't lose anything. Okay. Alright, well, they didn't destroy this Romanian army. That's a good thing. We should be able to reinforce it next turn. Okay. We're about to be in April of 42. Meanwhile, the partisans here just took the town of Cherkasy. You can see the Soviet units are largely upgrading here to level 1 infantry weapons. Japan has level 2, but I don't think Germany does yet. Which could be problematic. Okay, Chinese movements. I'm kind of falling back on Peking a little bit. Just because I don't seem to have the ability to support logistically anything in the north of China, so I'd rather just focus on the south of China, where I have a little bit more supply flexibility. Okay, British are reinforcing their cruisers in Haifa. Raid on Saint Nazaire. The port is badly damaged. Axis raiders disrupting USSR convoys. Chiang Kai-shek's wife is visiting America. I'm assuming that'll influence, what, Chinese morale? American morale? Something? Calculating supply. We lost a sub that turn. The USSR lost another 16 MPPs in convoys from German subs. Midway has bombers. Vladivostok has soldiers. Okay. So, let's see. These guys are no longer being rained on. I think the question is, what do we want to go after? Do we want to go after Sian, or do we want to go after Chongqing this turn? Well, there's rain in parts of the south. I'd rather eliminate Sian, frankly. That may allow us to threaten communist China. So these guys are entrenched at 3, so we'll go ahead and strategic bomb them. Also, our Air Force is better positioned, and I think terrain-wise we're better positioned to support the destruction of that town as well. Okay, so we did our 2 strategic bombers that reduced their entrenchments. Now we'll go with our TAC Air Force. Try and get their morale as low as possible by using as much air power against these guys as possible. These were an elite unit here. They're very experienced troops. So, the more we can shock and awe them, the better. We don't have a lot of units that can attack them. We'll attack here from the south. Move these guys in this way. And then pull these back. Just don't know. Shit. Really? I almost oh wait. Yes, we got him. Fortifications are destroyed, and that's also key. The fact that the forts are destroyed means they can't use them again next turn. So that is absolutely vital in my mind. Okay, so we'll start working on the troops here in the south as well. All right. All right, so we weren't able to move troops into the actual fort location, but we destroyed the fort, which means theoretically we can attack Cyan next turn, and if not, then we can at least attack units that won't have fortifications defending them. Meanwhile, we badly damaged that Chinese corps. Really, at the end of the day, it's just all about inflicting as much damage on China for as little cost as possible to our troops. Alright. Let's see. It's frickin' British. Let's see if we can do serious damage to this Chinese army down here. Damn, they retreated. Which means I can't attack them again. Okay. Could these guys retreat at least? I'd rather just do a short-range amphibious transport. I can't send them far enough, though. Let's see. Alright, we're gonna load these guys back up. Can we reduce the troops in Corregidor? So I can't finish Corregidor off this turn. I'm hoping we can finish him next turn. Meanwhile, the American Air Force on Guam continues to be a pain in the ass. Maybe our bombers or our battleships here can destroy something with their guns. No, but they did do a pretty good job of getting close. And then our carriers can come in here and shatter these guys. Okay. Why can't... I don't understand why they're... Are these guys, like, stuck in here? Or is there no exit for them? That seems weird if that's true. Alright, so we destroyed the one unit. Couldn't quite finish off the other. I need more troops on these islands to defend them against the Americans. Meanwhile, our fleet should be getting a little bit more supply. They do appear to be doing so, now that they're retreating back into our friendly waters. Okay. What's this? These are allies. Alright, so we took Itep, or however you pronounce that here, on the New Guinea coast. Alright. really need to turn these guys into amphibious troops. Having them just sit in port doesn't do it much good. So I guess we'll have to land them and then turn them into amphibious next turn. These guys, I'd rather just sit there and do nothing. We already did the attacks here in the north. So I think that's going to do it here for the Chinese theater. Everybody did their job, right? Everybody attacked who needed to attack. Okay. Let's move these guys inland a bit. Move these guys. Can we move them to Yichang? I don't know if they'll bump the supplies much from Yichang. Okay. Hong Kong. Alright. So, nearly destroyed 2 Chinese units here, and also 1 here in the north. We did destroy 1 Chinese unit in front of Sian. Pretty bloody turn for China, I think. Meanwhile, let's hope that this port is secure from enemy submarine attack. And let's move back to Europe. So these guys, I don't know what their supply situation's at. Alright, so... Jesus, that's a lot of fucking aircraft for the enemy to have. Alright, let's... Can we bombard and then retreat? I sure hope so. Yes. Okay, so we bombarded them. We'll go ahead and dive bomb them. We'll get some air combat going here. Very nice. We'll move our armor forward here. Have the Italian infantry attack. Have the armor attack. And then we just destroyed a British army. Very good. Very good, my fine soldiers. Very good. Alright, then we'll go ahead and reinforce them. And there you go. So a little bit of an ebb and flow in the North African campaign, I guess. Meanwhile, the British or the Italian Navy has just moved into the Atlantic. So they're going to get right along these supply convoys. They can't yet get far enough north to impact anything else, but they can at least get on these supply convoy routes. Okay, we see nothing but American destroyers, or British destroyers, or something destroyers all over. These guys have 6. I'm going to try and get on the Soviet convoy route. Ah, shit. I didn't move it into hunt mode. Okay, we'll move these guys. Ah, no! More enemy vessels. God damn it. There's just so many freaking enemy destroyers. Alright. Let's move some of these guys back to port. They need to reinforce themselves. How much are these aircraft going to cost? 38, I'll do it. Alright, before we reinforce the rest of our fleet, let's move to Russia. Let's see. All of these guys are without supply. That is concerning. Or at least without a headquarter unit. Alright, so let's make sure our front up here is at least reinforced as best we can before we start sprinting out toward Moscow. Okay. I think we'll bring... The weather is good in April, I guess, so the enemy is susceptible to being overrun. Looks like they pulled some of their aircraft back, actually. So we just destroyed the Soviet troops in Gormal, basically without loss. We'll drive this armor up here south. Okay. I want to reinforce these guys. I want to get all of these guys up to as close to full strength as we can do. If we can't upgrade... Let's see. So I think we already did all of our dive bombers that turn. What about strategic bombing? Alright, so Soviet interceptors. Jeez, that was a bloody turn for our Air Force. 3 casualties? Man, their Air Force is really bloodying up our fighters a bit. Thank God we have so many escorts here, because they sure have a bunch of interceptors. Alright, so we need these guys to reinforce, but we can't really even get them all up to full strength, which is concerning. We need to pull them back. Okay, let's see if we can destroy this army here to the south of Smolensk. Nice! And we did it without loss. Exactly what I was hoping we could do. Alright, let's see about reinforcing these guys. They can go to max. Okay. Move this armor over here. Can we upgrade these guys? We can. Very nice. Okay. All right. So I think that's about as reinforced and upgraded as we're going to get our troops in the north here. Do we want to try and attack the soldiers near Kursk? We can try and take the town of Kursk. Anything, I mean, if we can destroy enemy units with limited loss on our own, I'm happy to do that. We'll get the mechanized troops forward a little bit. It'd be great if we could encircle these guys. I don't think I'm really in a position to do that this turn. Let's force march these guys over here on the flank. Alright, so meanwhile... Nice. Okay, so we destroyed those partisan units. Those treacherous partisans. And we destroyed that pocket. Alright, so these guys will stay here. The Italian headquarters will move forward there. And can these guys reinforce? They can. These guys can go to max strength. And likewise. I would rather, like, get some of these units upgraded, but... I don't know if I can upgrade minor allies. Alright, so they lost like all their experience, but they did get upgraded, or reinforced. Okay, so... At least in the southern front, our supply and reinforcement situation's good. We just took Kursk. We're, I guess, building a little bit of a bulge here to the south near Oral. Maybe this will force the Soviets to withdraw some of these troops further east to reduce the risk of being encircled. I don't know. Move these guys forward to Kiev. Reinforce these guys to max. Meanwhile, in the north, I think our supply situation in some of these areas isn't quite as ideal. Unfortunately. But we'll allow these guys to essentially entrench by not having them move. And meanwhile, we're kind of building this armored spearhead here with 2 upgraded tanks, 2 tanks that aren't upgraded. And we're going to sort of concentrate, I think, our Air Force here. Problem is they've kind of withdrawn a bit. So they're a little bit further back, which may make hitting them with our Air Force a little bit trickier. We'll have to, you know, we'll move these guys forward as far as we can. But we also just took some pretty heavy casualties here with some of our Air Force units trying to escort. Move this headquarter unit north to try and give a little bit more support to all of this attacking force here. So we'll have 3 headquarters units sort of concentrated in here. We don't have new units this turn. We will get new units next turn. So the offensive will either begin in June or in May. I'm not sure yet. I do want to make sure my troops are as strong as possible, but of course every day that we delay, the Soviets get stronger too. And if the weather has turned in our favor, then it might make sense just to go for it. Part of me wants to move this armored unit forward here toward Vozith, or however you pronounce it, just to see if that triggers the Soviets into withdrawing some of these troops and giving us some more ground. But I'm not sure. I guess we'll do that. So now it's going to look to the Soviets like we're driving, to the AI like we're driving inland, sort of almost like a Stalingrad-like offensive. We've actually broken through here near Kursk. We're driving east. We're very close to Voronezh. And yeah. So, good, I guess. Actually, that was dumb. I would rather those guys remain in a town to prevent partisans. Although, yeah. Alright, I think that kind of does it for most of our units here in Russia. We've already more or less... Well, we haven't really done the naval action yet. These guys need to switch over to... Well, we already moved them. Let's see if... I guess we've got... Oh, fuck. I didn't want to do that. We've got 55 points left. We'll spend basically all of that on a battleship. Yeah. So I think that does it for this turn. It was a little bit of a quicker turn, I think. My goal is next turn to maybe take Guam. If these guys can get their head out of their ass and get out of this sort of bay here. Otherwise, that seems like a flaw in map design, frankly. But we'll see. Meanwhile, hopefully we reduce Corregidor next turn. And I'm just praying somehow we figure out a way to break through the British line near Singapore. Meanwhile, it'd be amazing if we could reduce Cyan next turn. I doubt we actually would take Cyan next turn, but it would be lovely to at least, you know, seriously threaten them. Maybe we could take or damage the city enough. We already broke through one of the fortifications there. I don't think there's one more here to the north. And that would allow us to flank the position at Yan'an as well. And I wonder if that would influence the supply up north here for the Chinese in the north. I wonder if this rail line influences supply or not. I doubt it, because we've already taken part of one of the hexes that it crosses through. Plus, they've got roads back here. But I can't imagine the supply is as good in the current situation. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. The Asian theater, is going, I guess, better than maybe I would have expected. But the Russian theater is still in doubt, and the island hopping campaign is still in doubt as well. But that's kind of the situation right now. I don't really have any money to invest in diplomacy. Japan, I'm going to kind of hang on to my resources for the moment, and we'll see. Unless I can upgrade those guys, which I can't. So we'll see what next turn entails. But until then, guys, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, saying once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, what did I do that for? I'm out.